Bridget would like to have your assessment so far about the process since it started last year. How would you assess it in general?
Thank you so much. My assessment is, of course, in all the discussions and negotiations, it has not been purely men, though we have 3 or 4 wings here. When the negotiation started, the opposition were all men, and the few of us from among the stakeholders, we raised that as a concern, that we need to see women reflect among the opposition. Of course, with the government, there were ladies whom I've already mentioned, and among us, the stakeholders, we have already mentioned. And therefore, as we went through all the negotiations, I would say with all the protocols that was initialed, we agreed fully that the 35% affirmative must be reflected and must be honored and remain there. Though practically when we go on the ground, it is not fully implemented, but that agreed on. And the only part of it is when you read the protocol, you can hardly, who was not with us when discussing telling the protocol, you may not realize that the 5% is there just because most of the statements and the way it was written, a little bit of higher standard that you read people, you read public, you read on, not specifically mentioning this and that, and in that way many people feel like the 35% was not reflected. It is there, but now we are thinking to have time again to engender the whole protocol so that it is for any common person out there who was not participating in this Tumaini peace talk can read and see that yes, it is being engendered and women are being reflected. And that's one of our expectations, and that's why we are here, to make sure we narrow the gaps and compromise for the women who suffer so much back home there. Thank you.
And what has been achieved so far since the resumption of the talks? I understand there was this contentious issues about the relationship between RRCs and Tumaini, the issue of power sharing, the issue of repetition, among many others. Has these been actually touched already or not yet?
Well, in every negotiation, there is always this argument between 2 parties. And to me, that's what I felt I've seen in the 1 week that we resumed it. Presentation from both sides were more of arguments and, of course, of their personal and also issues. But actually, coming to the real point is what you are mentioning, which I hope we shall have to handle it this week according to how the chief mediator will handle it. The most important thing is the Tumaini and RRCs, which we have to come. Should it be a standalone or 2 different agreements? For us and for me, women, we are saying, and with the stakeholders, no 2 agreement can be implemented fully in a one country. So we have to integrate. That's hybrid. We have to integrate and come with one stand, one agreement. And of course, we have not exhausted the differences between Tumaini and RRCs in a way that both parties have agreed, they have recognized, they even honor the RRCs. Everybody knows it. But what is new that has come from Tumaini that should be integrated in the 2 so that we merge them together to make one agreement. That's what I think we are going to discuss. Then the power sharing, of course. These are the things, the few things, if we really get into business, this is what we are supposed to discuss, and then come out and narrow and compromise and come up with one agreement.
But then the opposition continue to insist that Tumaini should be a standalone agreement because it cannot be an annex into what, and I quote, failed RRC. So what pressure or what role can stakeholders really play here to also influence the opposition to accept?
We are saying not annexed, not the word annexed. We, as the stakeholders, we are standing firm for one agreement. merging the two together, not annexed, but hybrid could work to integrate the two together, so that what is new in Tumaini, what is left out in our access, what was already implemented, we don't talk of that. There is 90% still remaining and the ongoing. So we need to match these two together and come out with one agreement. Of course, it is a discussion that we, as stakeholders, I begin to say we have to work it hard to make sure that let the two come together. And we know the chief mediator is doing a lot. But to my understanding, we the stakeholders, we are for hybrid, integrated, one agreement. And we believe and pray that the opposition will come to understand and agree with us.
And there's this question also, Bridget, back home there. People are saying, why should they trust the Tumaini process, since the revitalized peace agreement has been there since 2018 but has not been fully implemented? Why should they trust that this process will work out and it will be successful, especially when it comes to its implementation?
Yes, we agree with that, because 6 years down the road, only 10% has been implemented. 90% has not been implemented. The question is why? Up to now that it has not been. At least 50-50 could have been, but much of it has not been implemented. So that's the reality. We cannot deny it. The question is, will Tumaini be able to implement it in the shortest possible time? It is also a question to analyze. But in good faith, we hope and we are trying to say, if the two and if all of us come together, fixed our attention and our minds and heart to implement this agreement as one agreement, and not looking at our differences, but looking specifically at the country and the suffering of the people, that would make something a little bit different. I'm not saying perfect, but at least a step forward. We need to forget all these differences, and we need to have the heart for the country and the people. That is what can push us to implement at least 50% of all the agreement. But now if we go back with two agreements, all of us will doubt. Our access has not been implemented fully. Tumaini, will it be able to do it alone? This may not work. To me, if we march together, and then we change our attitude, we change our mindset, and we think the people and the country come first, and forget our egos in us, then we can move a step forward. That's how I look at it.
Right. And how has the Tumaini touched or addressed the issue of elections? Has it been one of the issues being discussed or touched here during the negotiation?
Oh, so far back, or maybe not that maybe you're asking for the current one. We have not discussed it yet. I've said there has been a lot of consultation, a lot of presentation, argument, but the real business is what we hope to begin this week. Anyway, this is one of the most important things that we need to look into. Elections is very important. If we sign the agreement now, we match the two, and we go back to our country as brothers and sisters, and we look into what is it that is expected of us. Why is our country not moving forward? Why are we stagnant? These are important things we have to look to. We don't blame anybody, but I as an individual, we as members of the country or citizen, what is that we can do to move our country forward? So election is one of them. That will take us forward. Yes.
And Bridget, how would you describe the level of trust and confidence among the parties here in general?
Thank you for that. There is a saying that a politician cannot be trusted. And that is true. But we are saying that lies on the personal issues and the personal way of looking at things. When we talked of trust and confidence building. It was 5 days discussion between the parties and the stakeholders, we as South Sudanese. The real aim was to find out what are the root causes of our differences. What is it that we can do to fix what we had already messed up or spoil it in our country? So the major aim of trust and confidence building is how do we relate among ourselves as people who are serving the country, whether we are in the government or out of government, our personal relationship, how we relate, how do we serve the nation. For example, the citizen would be very happy to see our leaders moving together across the 10 states. That would put a real impression in the citizen that yes, these people have their own differences, but their working relationship is so amicable that they can show to us they can do it. So that was why we had the 5 days confidence and trust building. And actually it helped the first government delegation and all of us to come together to narrow the differences and to move forward. But now it looks like the second delegation who did not attend the trust and confidence building do not really know what we did. Perhaps a session or a day would help if we are still around. So it is very important to have the trust and confidence building. It narrows what we think as an individual and look at the bigger picture of the country and the citizen. And looking at the people here, you asked me the two parties, how are they related? Not yet. The trust and confidence building is still a little bit apart. They're yet to come closer.
And what role can you play now as the stakeholders in the mediation to bridge the gap, to ease the process actually for it to finish or to end, conclude as soon as possible?
What I think is very important is, one, we need to talk to ourselves as South Sudanese. The two parties again plus us. We need to talk to ourselves and to make sure we have to forget the past. We need to fix what we have broken, what we have messed up. And we have to help the chief mediator to stand firm and say, it's not all about the parties, it's about the country and the people. And this is how we can be able to narrow. So we need to step in strongly as stakeholders and the chief mediator.
And also, Bridget, how soon do you think will this process conclude? Or based on your view, how long will it take? How much time do they really need? Because people back home, they are waiting for Tumaini to be signed.
I can't predict. But according to me personally, we would have taken something like 3 weeks or 4 weeks to finish this. Much of what we did was already exhausted. The second delegation just came for two things. That was the responsibility sharing, the implementation matrix, and then the agreement. We signed it. But now it is dragging because of the differences in the trust yet not built, and the gap is widening because each person stands on his or her, two parties stand on their views. But to me, if we only stick to what is remaining, I was glad the last day we talked, one party was able to say, from where you stopped is where we will continue. If we really come to that, some out of 3 weeks, the fourth week, we shall sign the agreement. But if we don't get into that point and we continue dragging and like a debate, it will take us endless time, even a year, which I may not be able to appreciate that. But we need to intervene as stakeholders and the chief mediator. They're doing their part so much.
All right.
In the last 1 week that we have spent here, I will still repeat that consultation and presentation took place, and we have not yet come to the new thing which we expect as a business that takes us forward. But at least they've been able to air out their grievances, and the presentation was what we listened to. So the new thing should be we are on the business of what we are here for, which is the peace and the compromise between the two parties. We are yet to reach there. So I'm just honest and to tell you the truth. Then the second question is, someone asked, will peace prevail in South Sudan? Of course, we are saying what we are discussing here is hope to have peace in South Sudan. And that hope is out of good faith, and it has to come from all of us. It is not like a blink of an eye that now, as I speak, peace will prevail. But it's a process. So that process will take time. And in good faith, we believe one day, one time, peace will prevail in South Sudan. Because we cannot believe that the whole country will remain in the same status in which it is for life. No, this will not come. It is in good faith. We believe that will happen. Peace will prevail in South Sudan with time, and this is one of the process of having Tumaini to sign that peace, get back home, and then we shall proceed. As somebody mentioned, will it be real peace when Thomas Cirillo is not here, Simon is not around? Yes, a lot of effort has been made to bring Cirillo on board, and Simon got with. We believe just our sons and sons of the nation. We will still continue to persuade them to see the importance of peace and to bring them on board to go back home. So we believe this is one part of it, and the rest who are still out will come in. But let us begin a step at a go. Tumaini should get in and sign the peace. Another person asked it again, why are we not direct with the parties? To assure you, stakeholders are direct. Much of what is being done, it is the effort from us, the stakeholders. The framework which was given last year, after 2 weeks, it was the effort so much that was done by the stakeholders together with the chief mediator. And the little difference is the first government delegation, we were in one hotel. It was easy to interact as an individual and as a group. But now, the second team, they feel like staying in a different hotel. But nevertheless, we are interacting with them. And we request the chief mediator to allow us sit with them, either government or the opposition, and really speak spade. The people, we are here speaking on behalf of the people, that the citizens are suffering, people need peace, we must go for peace. Leave alone our differences, forget the past, let us fix the country. So we are doing our best, we are doing our part. So you may not realize it, but stakeholders are working hard along the side of the chief mediator to bring peace. Then someone also asked, why do we still talk about 35%? Yet from 2005 up to now, the women who spoke about 35% are still in the system, and the same faces are there. So this is an interesting question. I like it. But how I wish you can hear me. The men who were from 2005 negotiated and came with the agreement. Have their faces changed or they are the same faces in the same government? So I'm saying this so that don't look one side. It is two ways. The same men are there and the same women are there. We appreciate them to be there. They are doing their best. But what we need above their being present in the government is we need the country to be fixed. We need peace in the country. And we need people to come back home. We don't want to have the refugees suffering, and even the IDPs, the people in POC, and even everybody in the country. They are not at peace. There is a lot of bloodshed. There is a lot of hunger, and people are suffering. Children are not able to have that conducive environment for learning. That's the most important thing we're looking at. And for them, the women and men, whom you think the same faces are there, maybe when we go for elections, things may be different. But for the moment, we need peace. Will the two parties reach to peace, I think, agreement, and how will it be with that, Thomas? I've already answered that. We hope they will reach to that. Yes, the person has asked, women must work hard to bring peace. I've mentioned 5 women are here for the Tumaini peace talk. To give you an example, the chairperson for the government delegation is a man. Chairperson for the opposition is a man. But the chair lady for the stakeholders is a lady. She's a woman. Telling you that we are working hard to ensure that women need peace. And this lady who is the chairperson is a strong one. She speaks, and we all speak alongside the men in our team as stakeholders. And so, as women, we sit also among ourselves and discuss things that can help. We are able also to interact with the opposition and the government. So we are working hard, but you cannot see, since you are far and since peace has not yet come holistically to everybody. We are not just sitting here. We are not just silent for nothing, but we are trying our best with one heart. One agreement is what I've already talked about. We need one agreement. We need to merge hybrid together, our access to money, what is new, and we come to have one agreement in one country. We cannot afford to go for 2 agreements in one country. Something new has a spark from Tumaini, and our access is very important, and we have all recognized the importance of the 2. So we shall merge them and have one agreement to take one agreement back in order to fix the country into the best way that we can live in a harmony way with our people and the citizens. And someone asked, is our government ready for peace? Why change of delegations?
Yes, that's Abraham.
It's quite interesting, this question. I would say government has its prerogative to send the first delegation and also to send the second delegation and change. That is the government. Therefore, I would say they know why they did it, but I will repeat, what is important is whoever comes here should have the heart for the country and the people, and we should negotiate in good faith to have peace. If a delegation comes here in order to jeopardize the peace process, is what we will not stand with. And if any delegation comes just because we are in the government and we are comfortable, we don't care about the suffering of the people, then that will not help us. The same to the other party. Change can come, but what is important is come as a new change for peace and with the heart for the people, and to fix what has been messed up in the country. And the last was
Freeman.
No peace outside. We must have love in our hearts for one another.
And taking resources outside the country.
And taking resources outside the country. I don't know where I can say this. Love comes from within. And most of us in South Sudan are Christians. We believe it is love that can bind people together to look at the common good and wealth of the other person. And when you meet two people, you can see the love. You look at what is important for the other person. But if I'm egocentric, thinking more of myself, then that love is a question mark. Therefore, I would say we have the church faith-based. They should stand firm to help us understand fully what is this love about. How can we implement love? Love should be in our actions towards the country. What country do we want? How do you want the people to be in? That is the love. Then we are the last. People first, country first, then we are the last. But if we promote ourselves first, then that love is questionable. And the resources we have, it's really a pity. We don't see value in them to develop the country with. We feel we have to develop ourselves as individuals. And that is the challenge facing our country. Otherwise, we have a big country, big enough for all of us. We have the resources more than we can expect if we could only have that heart to use it for the country, for the people, and for the development of the country. Nobody lacks nothing. We have it more than enough, and it spills over. But this egocentric, selfishness, and I would say corruption has really messed the country up, and we should come out of this selfishness and look at one another. That does he have? Which state is lacking? What can we do for that county? Regardless of where you come from, this will help us move forward.
Right. Any last message before we get on?
For
any last message? What's your last say?
Thank you so much. I would say thank you for listening at this time. Our women out there, please, we need your support in many ways for peace in our country. Women who are in the government, please portray positive image that shows we need peace in our country and our people, no selfishness. And men the same. Let us fix our country. Let us bring peace to our country. Let us work together as one people for one country, and that will help us move forward. Thank you so much. I appreciate you listening to me at this time.
Right. Nagomoro Bridget, Women Representative to Tumaini, thank you very much for joining us on the dot today.